Howdy everybody, it's Amy here from Amy Sparkly Diamond Painting and Cross Stitch. And yes, you're seeing me sort of here for just a couple minutes because this is the intro to my mid-year WIP parade for July for cross stitch. So in the cross stitch world, in the floss tube world, if you're a diamond painter and not familiar with floss tube and all that, a lot of cross stitchers go through and do a start of the year WIP parade, WIP standing for work in progress, and then a mid-year WIP parade. And that way we all showcase all the projects we're working on, where our progress is going with them, and it's just a good time to find new cross stitch channels and all that. But most people do them like this, where you can see the person. And all of my videos are done pointed down at the table because I don't wear makeup. I'm just me. But I thought I'd at least do a quick start here and a quick intro showing me. That's my part of my board game collection there behind me. This is in the living room. It is the back corner where I have my table behind the couch, and this is where I do all my crafting. And so I thought I'd just do a quick intro for those of you that are new to my channel or are finding me now as part of the WIP parade. So my name is Amy, and I am a very recently retired federal employee, meteorologist by trade. And I do mostly diamond painting right now, but I used to do mostly cross stitch for many years, going all the way back to high school, because I had a big sister that cross stitched and taught me how. So I was really into it for a while, and then my eyesight went bad, and I have a lot of troubles. I won't go into all the details, but I've had some eye surgeries and other things, and cross stitch just wasn't feasible for me anymore. So I gave away just about all of my stuff to my big sister a couple years ago. And my eyes have had some improvement with medications and all that stuff, but I went to diamond painting because 10 squares per inch there, it's a lot easier, it's a lot more feasible for somebody with some eye issues because I can work with the light pad underneath, don't have to try to follow charts and all that stuff. But my cross stitching experience goes back to a time when we didn't have Pattern Keeper. There may have been full coverage. I remember Heaven and Earth Designs just starting as I was leaving cross stitch. So a lot has changed in the years since I've been away, and I've been trying to catch up over the last year. I discovered stamped cross stitch from doing product reviews from the Chinese companies for diamond painting, and I found, hey, I can cross stitch again. So I know not everybody is a fan of stamped cross stitch. Don't worry, I'm going to start with counted cross stitch here for part one. I got plenty of that. But I'm also hoping that you take a quick look at least at the start of some of my stamped cross stitch and maybe give it another look if it's something that you haven't considered in the past. The old Joy Sunday kits that were copycats and all that. A lot has changed, and there are companies out there doing stamped cross stitch that are licensed. So I'm going to show some of that and some of my huge projects in that. So I think even if you're not a big fan of doing them or purchasing them yourself, you might find something interesting in that as well. But that'll be part two. So I thought I'd start out here with part one with all my counted cross stitch designs, and some of them go back many years. I mean, we're talking college days because I did find some that were lost in other places that my sister did not have or that I did not give her. And I have held back my most precious samplers. So I'm going to show those. And just a very quick thing about me, I mentioned a retired meteorologist. I have 2 adult kids and a hubby, and we live here in West Texas. And yes, we had 14 inches of rain last night, so it's been kind of a crazy day. It is July 4th, so I thought I'd end this with at least getting part of this WIP parade done. Not sure I'm going to finish tonight, as you'll see why. It's kind of crazy. I am one of those people that have a ton of WIPs. But the order that I plan on doing, I'm going to start with my smalls, I think, because they're all bundled together. And then I'm going to move on to my old reproduction sampler set. and then some of my old stitches from 10, 20 years ago or more. And then I'll move into my most recent counted cross stitch starts, and probably end with the Shadowlings that I have. I have 2, and then my full coverage pieces that I started from Heaven and Earth Designs and a couple other places. Those are all counted cross stitch. So I'm going to do all those first, and then I'll move into the stamp cross stitch, probably showing my giant ones first, and then moving into some of the others. So sit back, relax, enjoy the fun, but I'm gonna point the camera down where I'm a little more comfortable showing things instead of me. I am an introvert. I don't like to show myself, so I just thought I'd do it for this intro and then go back to my usual spot of pointing down at my table. So hopefully everything will show up okay. I'm not into the fancy fabrics with a lot of hand dyeing in them, because a lot of my stuff is older, back when, you know, everything was ecru, off-white, white. So I don't have a lot of the hand-dyed stuff and all the fancy colors, so we should be fine just pointing down at the table. So enjoy the show and welcome in. And if you want to hang around, go ahead, like, subscribe. You can pick out the cross stitch stuff, the diamond painting stuff, whatever you like. I try to start each video telling you what I'm going to do, but some of my unboxings have a mixture of both, because I do order from some overseas companies. And I am also a Painting Fairy ambassador, so I just posted a video earlier today for those of you into counted cross stitch, showing their amazing cross stitch frames. So even again, if you're not into counted, you may find their frames, or if you're not into stamped, you may find their frames to be as spectacular as I did. And I have a link and a discount code and all that. It's really worth a look, and that was posted earlier today. So sit back, enjoy the show, and welcome in. All right, this feels so much better already. So I'm gonna start. The ring light looks a little shimmery on some of my project bags here, but I have 3 different bags of smalls, so I thought this would be a good place to start. So I do apologize in advance if there is a little bit of zipping and all that stuff. I will try to keep the zipping off to the side so that hopefully the microphone won't pick it up too much. And hopefully these bags won't be too loud. So let's go for the small bag within the small bag, because I do want to talk about Sandra Cozzolino Santas for a little bit, the Mill Hill Santa kits. I've been collecting Sandy's Santas since before she was ever for Mill Hill, when she was designing the very earliest ones back when I was in high school and college. I have a whole video of Sandy's Santas in my collection. I did just buy the ones for this year, and I do try to do a few of them a year to try to keep up, but I lost count. There are well over 100 of these Santas, so I'm not going to show all them. I have a video linked below that goes over all of my Sandy Santa collection, but also this is a WIP parade, and some of them are kits waiting to be done, and a lot of them are finished. So we'll start with this one. This is the latest Santa I am working on. I try to work on them one at a time. This is the Down Under Santas. I don't remember which year this was. I think it's very recent though. That may be last year. So there is the picture, and I've been struggling to get very far with this one for some reason. These are done on perforated paper. So I've got one of the koala bears here. They're really hard to see without the back stitching, and his boots. Normally I can do these in a couple days when I get to it, but for some reason I've worked on this little bits here and there. But this particular pattern has a lot of color changes to it, and that's why I think I'm struggling to get very far with it, because it's just a little more detailed than a lot of the other Santas that I've done. So that is that one. This is kind of my Christmas ornaments bag. This is very portable, so I have several ornament kits in here, and I just grab it and go and can work on little projects. So here's one of the snow charmer kits. I have a lot of these. Well, that one's not started, so a couple times I'll sneak kits in here that aren't quite started yet. This is a Christmas tree here from Dimensions. They had a whole series of these. I have most of them. I'm missing a couple of them, but these are done on perforated plastic, and you can see hanging thread here. But I've actually done this one twice. So I finished this one earlier this year, and then I found the missing kit for this after I'd repurchased the other one. So I've actually been working on this one twice this year, but I thought I'd get that one as an easy finish, but as you can see, not finished yet. Maybe because I did it already once. So that's what it looks like there. And that may be it. I have another snow charmer kit. This one I did start, but I got off count on it somewhere and got frustrated with it. It'll be a really easy fix, and they do have 2 pieces. I have extra of this paper so I could redo it. There we go. And these come with beads and the floss and everything. They're nice little portable projects. So I have a huge tub full of cross-stitch ornaments kits, but I only showed the ones here that I've actually started. If I just feel in the mood, I will grab a cross-stitch ornament and usually finish it in a day or 2 and add it to the collection. I think I added like 7 or 8 last year, but this year's been a little bit slower. So I do have this silver needle bag because I lived in Tulsa many years ago, and they are probably closest to my local yarn store because I order from them every year online. So Tulsa, Oklahoma, silver needle. Okay, let's get into the rest of this bag with some other smalls. And a lot of these I've only run into recently because they were lost. Otherwise they would have been with my sister. But here is one. Hopefully just one. Nope, there's a couple in here. I used to be a huge fan of Shepherd's Bush. So this is the Trick or Treat here. Hopefully it's zoomed in enough that you can see it. And here is where I got to years ago before I stopped working on it. So this is on linen. Linen these days is pretty hard for me to work on. I need big magnifiers to be able to do it, but I can do it. You'll see some more recent starts on linen, including one of my Shadowlings. So not a whole lot to do. That I could finish in an afternoon. I just need to finish the border. I've even done all the back stitching on the inside, but maybe I'll save that one and do a Halloween finish so I feel like I accomplished something there. So that is one of my Shepherd's Bush. And then the other one here is a needle fob for scissors, a little pillow there. And this is another one that it looks like I finished one and not the other. So here is the finish. I really love Shepherd's Bush because of all the specialty stitches, as well as a lot of the kits have silk floss instead of DMC. And look at that, I even have a really ancient needle in here. So there's one, here's the other, not quite finished there. So that won't take long either. So I just ran into these like a couple weeks ago, and that's why they're not done. They won't take much to finish. So those are some of my old mini Shepherd's Bush, and I do apologize if I'm taking a minute to put these into bags, but I don't want to have a huge disaster at the end of this. Okay, here's another small old one, and I bought this kit for my sister as well, so that's one of the reasons I still have it, is because I bought one for her. I thought it was so cool. So this is called My Secret Garden from Lizzie Kate, and I was a fan of the variegated silk floss for a while. Really loved the linen and the variegated flosses, but this was a limited edition kit. Came with everything, the linen, and even, I'm sure these won't grow anymore, but it came with a little bag of seeds. But this is how the floss was bagged up because it is silk. And let's see how far we got. Well, there it is. You can kind of see here on the bricks how it is variegated. There are some subtle color changes through that. Got the words done, and for some reason I stopped there. So it's a little over halfway done. I think. Let me put it where you can see it all. And I think it had a couple charms with it, or a bead or something that's buried in there. So that is My Secret Garden. And as far as telling you the linen, I probably can't on most of these. It just says hand-dyed linen. So somewhere in here it probably gives the brand. But I'm not sure any of this is even available anymore. R&R Productions is the brand there. And it was Gentle Art Sampler Threads. There is a butterfly button and a couple charms. I don't think they're in here in this package, but I do have them. So that is My Secret Garden. Very simple. I don't know, again, why, oops, there are fireworks outside, made me jump. I don't know why I haven't finished that one. Okay, what's next in this bag? This is one I just ran into a few days ago. This is an Ancient Gold Collection petite kit. I did have a lot of Dimensions kits back in the day. I have given away most of them, but I did find this one. I did have a thing for lighthouses and beach scenes for a while. So we do have the old school flosses. This is before they started putting them on the cards, so you can tell by the yellow on this that it is a very, very old kit, and there is the charm still in it. But that's all I got done. I think this is probably 18 count. Looks pretty tiny there. But we just got the house and part of the lighthouse done. But I'm also a collector of maps and really love map cross-stitch patterns and cross-stitch designs. So that's why this one really appealed to me. But the price on this one, it was a Hobby Lobby kit way back then, $9.29. And I think that's the year on there. It says 1985 and 89. On there are the two numbers. One is probably category and one is year. Not real sure there, but it is an old one. Oh, no, it can't be because that says 1998 for the copyright. So a little bit newer than I thought, but still one of my older ones there. So that one's going to take a little more work to turn into a finish. But I love having smalls around because I have some that are so large that they are going to take me a really, really long time. So I like taking a little break. Sorry, big zipper there. I like taking a little break and finishing something small. So I'm going to save some of those because they're newer. And we can look at another one here. My old school project bags here were Ziploc bags. And this is another one I found out in the garage, believe it or not. Hide the pattern there. This is another Dimensions Gold Collection Petites here. And this is called Eagles. And it is a full coverage, but it is a small one, 5x7. Hopefully the fireworks aren't in your way too much. And there we go. So we got a lot done, actually. We got his wing, we got a lot of the background, because a lot of that is half cross stitch. And we don't, yeah, there's his head. It's just not back stitch, so it's hard to see there. And then his talons and his feet there, so we got somewhere on it. Maybe about halfway. It wouldn't be too hard to finish that. Let's see what copyright is on that one. It was 1997 for that one. So not too old. But I do have all the floss in there still. That needs a finish as well, as they all do. I'm going to be like everybody else. I need to finish this. I want to work on that. This is a new one. So we'll jump around a little bit because this is next in the pile here. This is one I bought on Amazon only about a month ago. And I thought it was so cute. It says slow down on there, and it's a mushroom theme. I like the little snail and the mushroom. And the fact that it came with this hoop that's already covered with fabric. And so I really enjoyed working on it. That's close to a finish. I just have the ground to work on. So I've done all the back stitch for the jar. I've done the back stitch on the snail and haven't back stitched any of the stuff that still needs to be finished through here. I like to sometimes work on back stitch as I go, but only after I've really completed the full area before I put those in. So that's a cute one there. Really easy kit, and this is the modern dimensions where they come with the floss attached to these little cards. Not a big fan. I actually cut them apart because I'm mostly done. I only need a couple greens and some white to finish that. So really, really cute kit, and very, very affordable as well. So I'll just throw them on the floor here. And this is an ornament in the wrong place. This one is very, very close to a finish. This is kind of funny that I haven't finished it. Look at that. He's just missing his boots and any backstitch. So here is the pattern. This is another one of that set of dimensions on the plastic canvas there. I thought he had a little too much snow. Those are all French knots. I will probably only do about half the French knots on this one, get rid of some of that snow. I'll do the big snowflakes on there, but all that is done afterwards. Let me put that there to cover the pattern. But you can see these are really fun, really cute. No quarter stitches because it's on plastic, but I enjoy those. So he needs to go back into the Christmas ornament bag. Let's see what's next. This one. So this is another more recent one here. This is a Mill Hill kit, and this was after I'd been away from buying Mill Hill kits for a while. So we were in Dallas. My hubby is into remote control cars. He has an RC car YouTube channel. If you know anybody that's looking for RC car stuff, RC Rustomod is his channel. But we were at a swap meet in Dallas, and I stopped by a cross-stitch shop. I wish I remembered the name of it, but I unfortunately do not at the moment. But I picked up a little kit that I could work on while I was waiting for him, because it was a little more than half a day that we spent at the swap meet. So I picked out this because it was a ship in a bottle, and I thought it was really cool. Well, it turns out I'm so used to perforated paper and all that for Mill Hill kits, but this was a lot bigger than I expected. So here we go. It was also linen, which I did know, I could tell on the package, but I thought I'd try my hand. It was really bright lights there at the swap meet, and I've worked on it a lot since I've been home as well. So you can see all the beads here, hopefully, in the water. And there are some white beads here and there. There's a lot of beads here around the glass jar to make it sparkle. But I came to a point where I wasn't completely sure if I wanted to just end it here at this line of water and leave off the words, or keep going with the words. So since I haven't decided, I kind of stopped. So let me know in the comments, should I keep going and do the words? I did not include the words yet here on the ship or up here. I definitely don't want those in there. But I may or may not do this part. But that is that kit. Kind of a cute one, and pretty impressed for it being a Mill Hill kit. There's some of the beads. And of course the floss. So that one was kind of fun. Boop, onto the floor. And then I ran into this one. And this is way back. Oop, I got some more floss mixed in there. Here's the floss that goes with that one. There's not much to show here. I don't even have the original picture, but back in the day, there was a whole series of Amish quilt kits that were done on different colors. Problem with this one, of course, is black Ida, which is very difficult if you have trouble seeing. But I got that far. I have the pattern here, but again, I don't have the picture. Let me see. This was Cross My Heart Incorporated, and I've given away the rest of the set. So this, it's so small. I feel like I should do a finish, but I'm not really sure I like it. So that one may or may not continue on this year. I'll put it over on the side because I will have to make a decision on that one. Okay. Let's keep going here. One more in this bag, I think. Yes. And this is a Riolis kit. So I have discovered more recently the European cross-stitch kits, and I found that Riolis is actually a really nice brand. They have several different styles and types of kits, but this is a little bird. I only got this one a couple weeks ago from 123 Stitch, And this is Winter Guest is the name of it here. It is 10 by 10 centimeters. I still have all the other goodies that came with it. This is the wool blend, which I really like. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I find the wool blend here, the single strand wool acrylic blend, to actually be kind of fun and different to use. But what I didn't notice when I got this kit, let me flip over the pattern, okay, you can't see anything there, is it's all half cross stitch. It's more like a needlepoint here. So it is all done in tent stitch there with 4 strands. Sometimes 3, sometimes 4. So all the dark colors have 4 strands to get the coverage really good. But this is done just on some Ida cloth there. This is 14 count, but I really enjoyed how quickly this one went. He's got a little ways to go here. Let's see. So we got the background, and I think that's mostly at the background, and then the back stitching. So almost there, and a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. There's a whole series of these, but I thought I'd start with one and see what I thought before I go to buy more of them. So that's all in that bag. We're almost done with all our smalls here. Now I do have one stamped cross stitch that was snuck in here, but it is a small, so that's why it's in here, and it is a keychain, a stuffed keychain done on vinyl here, and I've got about halfway done of one side here. So you can see here, this is beaded cross stitch, so you have the design printed there on the vinyl, and you do it twice, fold it over, and then sew it and stuff it. But there we go. Not the most expensive beads. We're not talking Mill Hill beads or anything like that, but they're still quite good. So it's actually coming out really good, and I just thought he was really cute. So little bitty kit. These cost just a couple dollars, but a lot of fun if you're looking for something small. And then finally I have a couple other newer ones here in this bag. Oh, and then I have another bag of smalls over there. I have not kept count, so at the end of this I think I'm going to put a sticker on each one of these with the count. This one I don't believe I've started. This is another vinyl, and it's counted, but it's 18 count, very, very tiny, and I think that's why I haven't started it. That might be even 20 count, but it is easy grid. And this is a needle minder, although this looks more like credit card holder stuff. You could put floss in there. Has a front and a back, and the inserts here, and then another little piece, and the ribbon, everything you need. There's even the thread to sew it with here. So here's a design. Some pretty little lilies there, lilies of the valley, I believe. So I thought that was really cute. So it does fold and make a little needle minder, credit card holder, or whatever you want to do with it. But another Chinese kit, but it's counted, but I have not started it yet. So this is a few Chinese counted kits here. So here is another one. And let's see, I thought this was a start. Where did it go? I may have this one somewhere else. Interesting, because I have 2 of these. This is Van Gogh's Starry Night. It is a round magnet, but for whatever reason, I'm not finding it in here. I've gotten about halfway done. There we go. Okay, so this is on the plastic canvas here, not quite halfway, but I do have all the black done. I've been color completing on this one, so neat little kit here, and it does come with the backing here that's adhesive on the back to give it a nice soft backing, and then a big old magnet. So that is Van Gogh. I am a big fan of Van Gogh, and of course with art before 1924, it's Creative Commons. There aren't any licensing issues with a lot of the old masters art. So here is the other one that I got, the Sunflowers kit. So That company, Chinese Embroidery, actually makes some really nice dimensional kits like this. So I do enjoy them. Okay, that's that bag. Now we're going to do our final bag of smalls here. And then I might reset for the next group. So this is my last bag here of smalls, but it is kind of thick. So let's see what we got in here. So I used to be a huge Teresa Wentzler fan. I still have all her patterns, all her books, all that good stuff, but I don't have too many kits. I think I only have 3 of them left. I might have all 4 of this set of smalls, but this came out near the end of when she was putting out a ton of stuff back in the 90s, I believe. So this is the Peacock. It's one of a set of 4 of her minis. And I do have these designs also in one of her books, but I think I also still have the kit for all of them. So these are done on linen. I believe it's probably 32 count. Let's see, I'll have to look here. 5x7. Ah, okay, because this one says the kit comes with 18 count Ida, and this is not. This is 32 count linen, so I must have swapped it out. But Teresa Wentzler is the queen of blended colors and quarter stitches. So I don't know if you can see that there. I'm going to do a tutorial about quarter stitches, and I've got a stamp cross stitch kit recently that came in with quarter stitches. So I thought, you know, I need to do a tutorial video on that for those that aren't familiar with that. But you can see all the tiny, tiny quarter stitches there, and also throughout here in the wings, but I didn't get all that far, and I remember being so impatient and waiting for these to come because I bought them through one of the old catalogs, the Stitchery or something like that. They may still be around, and then they were back ordered and they didn't come, and I remember finally getting the shipping notice and just waiting all day for that UPS truck to deliver them, and then I only got this far. That's usually the way it goes, the excitement of the stuff arriving, and then you kind of burn out pretty quick. But that's interesting because I've got the kit floss here, but it looks like maybe I lost the kit or something, but I have the instructions in here, so I don't know, because I've obviously swapped out for the linen, and I have a lot of DMC in here. That part doesn't look like a kit, so a little puzzled there, but it's been a while. Oh, okay. That is the last sort of small. Now I know why this bag is so big. This is a series of smalls, and I have shown them earlier this year if you had found me before. This is the set of Fun Everyday Perpetual Calendar from Sam Sarah's Designs, and this was somewhat recent, I believe. This was, trying to find a date here. I don't think you can find them anymore. I think they were quite popular, but they use Weeks Dye Works and perforated paper, and you can buy a little stand-up frame here where you can flip all these and create a perpetual calendar. So they were made for every month of the year. I bought the whole set. So this one is October with a 1 and a 0, and then each month will have some sort of seasonal design or two on them. But I have a huge pile in here of Weeks Dye Works, and then I have some of them here that are finished. So you want to use some sort of variegated floss like Weeks Dye Works, because that's where the background gets the design there. Hopefully you can see that, because otherwise they're very simple designs, but it's how you stitch the background to kind of follow the shapes and stuff. Like I did the swirl here and in several other places to try to follow a design to make that background. Here's August, and I love how that color looks like wood because I stitched it all vertically to give it that wood look. Here's May, and again, this one's more vertical, although the ground I did horizontally there. And I just had fun playing around with the floss. July here is a watermelon, but I stitched it going kind of curved like this. So it's got a little bit of shading to it there with the variegated floss. Love, love, love these. And I have tons and tons of the paper still cut. I got a lot more perforated paper because of all the Santa kits that I do as well. And I still have all of the pieces here to glue it on. Tons and tons of floss. I thought I had one I was currently working on. Here it is. The letter 0. The number 0. There we go. So I got about halfway done with that one. But they do use a lot of weeks dye work, so it is kind of an expensive project, especially now if you have to buy them on secondhand market to get the patterns here. But I do have all of the patterns and some extra perforated paper, but they are just adorable. So here's February. Can flip through them real quick. September, they're not in order obviously. November, December, August. So if you're into seasonal and like just little projects, it's a great little set here. It's just hard to find. I think the hanger though is still available. I've seen it. I think Yarn Tree has them still, but lots and lots of threads to get that done, and I probably don't even have close to enough because the black and white border takes a lot of thread as well. So I call that a small just because it is a whole series of smalls. Put my other one back here. So that is all my smalls. I'm going to stop the camera here and reset and be back in a minute. Okay, I am back, and we are now going to move into some of my older, larger projects. So these are ones that I've still held on to for various reasons, mostly because I lost them in my closet in the garage. But nevertheless, they are still WIPs, so they are still in my WIP parade. But I might need to make a decision on a couple of these because they are pretty old. So we'll start with this one, and unfortunately I don't have a photo of it. I bought this one on eBay as a used kit because I really wanted to try one of the Eva Rosenstand bell pulls. I was really into bell pulls for a while, so I'll show just the front here. This is called Field Flowers 2. The pattern doesn't have a whole lot of English with it. It doesn't have a whole lot of details, mostly the chart. But I did pull it back out, and I actually did work on it this year. So here's my progress so far. Very, very delicate. But this is on linen, so I have to go very slow. And because it's on linen, it has a lot of color changes, which is difficult with this see-through linen because you don't want to drag your threads across the back because they will show. So I've had to be very careful with my ninja stitches and 1 or 2 colors here and there and all that. So I'm doing okay with it. It's coming out okay. But this fabric, it was already pre-hemmed by somebody when I got this kit. And there's not a whole lot of border on this one, but that's okay because it's going to stitch up into a bell pull. But it does just take a little bit of patience because of all the different color changes. I think that's 32 count, maybe looking at it, maybe 28. But a lot of delicate stitching going into that. So I do have the floss on these really pretty plastic floss cards. When I found this kit, they were on paper and the paper card was falling apart, so I switched them to these nice hard plastic ones and just put the code or the symbol on there. I don't believe this is DMC, so I don't have DMC numbers, so I had to go with stickers for these symbols on that one. So if I find a picture, I'll pop it in there, but if I don't, it's kind of hard to find. Okay, here is another oldie. One of the things I loved was doing different specialty stitches. Darn it. Sorry about that. I had actually zipped it instead of unzipping it. So the Drawn Thread was one of my favorite companies back then. And I have this. This is called Random Thoughts. The problem is I lost everything that goes with it somewhere on the way. So this came as a chart pack, and then I bought the fabric. But it had some charms with it and some silk floss, and I have lost it. I should probably hide that. I forget sometimes that I'm showing the pattern, but this does have a lot of different specialty stitches here, which I really, really love, and I did enjoy working on it. And again, because this is linen, I believe this is 28 count. No, this is 32 count Summer Khaki by Zweigart. And you can see all the little tiny stitches. Those are actually rose stitches. They're not cross stitch. I don't know if this will zoom in well enough to show you. So we've got, I think those are queen stitches maybe. We've got other types of stitches there, and then a mini sampler done over one. I thought that was cute. And then of course satin stitches here. A lot of fun with this one, but I've lost most of the goodies that go with it. So I'll have to come up with some other threads for it, and I don't have the button anymore, but I'll come up with something. But again, there's the pattern. So drawn thread was one of my favorites back then. So I did manage to keep one of them. Okay, now a lot of people have a whole section of mirabilias and fancy ladies. I do not, but I used to. And again, they are gone. You'll see one mirabilia, one lavender lace in this, but I'll go ahead because it's sitting right here. The lavender and lace was a restart, so it's in my more recent pile. But I fell in love with this at the time that I bought it. And I think, let me see what this one is called here, because I don't remember the name. Here, this is, part of the chart is showing again. Hold on just a second, sorry about that. It was folded the wrong way. There we go, Le Nouveau Sampler, DMC, Mill Hill glass beads, Krynic metallic thread, all the good stuff. The problem is my taste has changed. So I do love butterflies, and it did have butterflies, really pretty little English garden up there at the top, and an alphabet. But I didn't do it on that color linen. I did what I could find back then, and so I didn't get very far. So I think this is going to be a UFO. I think I will make this turn into something else, because here's my start. It just never seemed to go anywhere. I don't think I liked the fabric color at the time, and the design no longer appeals to me like it did back then. So I have this beautiful, huge piece of linen, and that's the pitiful start on it. I think that's somewhere in here in the center. I always did center starts back then. But this one I will put off to the side, because I'm just not sure. I do have a few mirabilia charts that have survived, including one of the mermaid ones that goes for a fair amount of money right now. I may sell that one on eBay as well. I don't see myself doing that. Okay, Teresa Wentzler again, and a bell pull. Love, love the bell pulls. This is a kit. I also have the regular pattern. This is called the Fruit Bell Pull. It was sometimes easier back then to buy the Teresa Wentzlers as kits, because you could get the beads and everything. This is 28 count even weave here, and I have it kitted up in floss bags. Shows how old this was, but for preservation purposes, these are preserved very nicely, no dust, anything like that. I'll show the pattern again, but the problem is I didn't get anywhere with it. So for whatever reason, I only got the border of one square done. So not much to show there, and this was one of the ones that would have gone to my sister if I had found it at the time. My sister lives in Louisiana though, so getting stuff to her requires shipping. It did come with the backing fabric though, nice muslin in there. So I don't know what we'll do with that one. I do really like the design though. I love the pretty blended colors for all the fruit there, but that is that. Here was another one that was probably more recent. This is 2009. This is a Janlin pattern and more butterflies. It was kind of like a field guide type. Oops. Hold on just a second. Let me put this. If I don't put that floss back, it'll be lost forever. Okay, there we go. So this was a Janlin kit. Love the butterflies, love the background, love the shading on that one with the half stitches, lots of back stitching on this one. But there's a problem with this one. I lost the floss. It's DMC. I can replace it. I do have the pattern, and I do have some progress on this. So I hate to totally give this one up. It's on Ida cloth, so it's pretty easy for me to work on. And I did some of the back stitch along the way there, so it looks pretty nice. So I will keep going on that one of these days, but I do have to recreate the floss for that. Shouldn't be a problem. I have many skeins that I held on to through the years, back when DMC was cheap, when you could get 10 for $1. I remember those days, and I used to save them up. I even have some of the really old colors that changed dye lots back when they had to make that major switch, all the grays and everything. I do have old ones of that. Here's another one that was lost along the way. This is one of my shepherd's bush designs that I still have. This one is called Sailor Collar. I used to have several others of the really big ones, the Gatherer series and all that, but those have moved on to my sister's house. But this one is very pale, so that's probably hard to even see in there. But I loved little band samplers like this. I did finish several, actually, shepherd's bush there, but I do love the mini band samplers. So here's the work that I have on it. Sorry it's not ironed, but love the silks and how they shine on these. So I got that far there. There's the pile of silks. I'll just kind of throw it in there. So we are, oh, it looks like we are down to here. So all we have left to do are these last two sections. So that actually wouldn't take too long. Really nice piece of linen there. Really pretty. But I don't know. That one I may send to my sister to finish for me. Let's see. Okay, what's next? Here's one I think I can handle with my current eyesight, because this one was kind of funny. I wanted to do this way back when my kids were little, because I was really into decorating with Noah's Ark, and it's a Teresa Wentzler. But trying to find the right fabric to do this was difficult, so this one is actually a bit too large. So let me pull this out. I can't even remember what I ended up finding for this. Let me cover this up, because the way this pattern works, parts of it are over 2 and parts of it are stitched over 1. So the little animals are stitched over 1. So it had to be an even weave. And then the center is stitched over 2 and the lettering is stitched over 2. So in order to get all the details of those little animals, you had to do 1 over 1. So the fabric I found is actually a very large count. You can probably tell. I don't know what it is. It's been too long, but it's going to be a rather large design here. Not too large there, but you can see it's like it's a 10 count when you stitch over 2. There may have been like a 22, a 20 or a 22 there, but I could probably still handle this. The question is, do I want to do it anymore? And I'm not sure. So that is the really big stitches. I kind of like the middle, But to do all those animals over one, even though it looks like a big count on this, I don't know. What do you think? Should I finish it now that my kids are grown? Nope. More pattern. Oh, I'm not sure about that. Okay, we're getting near the end here. And again, the reason I have most of these is because they were lost for a while. So this is another one that I have the pattern, I just don't have it with me. This is a Just Nan. She did a series of these large ones with specialty threads on, I believe that's like 10 count there. But I don't have the pattern here with me. I have it upstairs in what's left of my pattern collection. But this is as far as I got here of the little teddy bear. He has some charms and other things, but I don't know if you can tell, this is like wool there for his face. The eyes have metallic braid in them. His hat there on the brim is leather. And there's more wool through here, more leather all through the jacket. It was fun to use all these specialty threads. So I made this Santa years ago, and I had like 4 or 5 of these kits, or that I kitted up in my collection. I stitched a baby teddy butterfly and finished that one, but I will have to try to reunite the pattern with this. I know I have it, but that's when I lived in Tulsa, which was early 90s here, because they all say silver needle on them. But this is Tweety 18 count. I've got all sorts of different types of floss here, and that's what made it so fun. There's the alpaca, here's the fireworks for the eyes, lots and lots of alpaca. Somewhere I have some Kreinik in there. Ultra suede, looks like I used up all that. Splendor silk, and I'm not even sure what this is. Impressions by Karen, 50% wool, 50% silk. It's kind of a mess in here, but I do have the little tool charms and everything that go with him. They're just not here. They are somewhere else. I know where they are. They are upstairs with my patterns. I have a drawer that has specialty threads and beads in it, and that's where that tool set ended up. So he could probably be a finish because he is so cute, and it would be fun to use the specialty threads, and that large count linen shouldn't be a problem. Okay, this one is one I'm excited for because just last week I bought a used kit version of this. This is another Teresa Wentzler, and this one was pretty special to me at the time I was working on it. You can see it's very, very beat up. So this is the English Cottage sampler there, and a lot of beads, a lot of quarter stitches, a lot of blends, but I had a thing for English cottages back then and samplers. So I got this in Houston, Stitches and More from Old Town Spring. Don't know how many years ago this one was, but it was $4.95. I'm guessing I was in college when I bought this one. 1990 is the copyright. And Teresa Wentzler was associated with Just Cross Stitch magazine. But my pattern is so beat up. And I also lost the floss and beads for it. I have tape along here. I don't want to show all the pattern, but the tape is turning yellow on here. I tried to protect the edges of that. So I was really excited when I saw on the D-Stash that somebody was selling the kit version of this. And because I had already done so much of this, I thought, you know, for that price, because it was used but unstitched, but I think the kit had been opened, it was such a good price to replace the floss and the beads and the pattern that it was worth it to me. So I don't have it yet, but here is how far I got. So I even added some of the beads on here. There's all my quarter stitches with the leaves there, and of course the cottage. The cottage had a neat roof there, changing the different stitches. So really, really pretty. And I worked down far enough that I could get to the alphabet there. And I love this piece of fabric. I love the color on it. I did actually work all the way down to make sure it would fit on there, which it does. There's a couple inches there to spare. But love, love, love the design. I don't know why. I think I had to check because I measured wrong and I was down too far. So that's why I went all the way down just to make sure it would fit before I continued on. But I'm so happy that I found a good deal on the kit for this. I don't need the fabric that comes with the kit. It's probably like Ida cloth or something else, but this is a beautiful large piece of linen, so I can continue to work on this one because I remember it being so special to me many years ago as I was working on it. But pattern is just too beat up right now, so we'll get back to that one very soon. Okay, and finally the last of my old stuff here is another map. And this one, I'm not sure what floss I was using. I usually converted lots of stuff to silks back then, but this is a pattern from the work basket here, and it is called Bay Sampler. So there is the picture. It is kind of like a map here with old school ships. And I have this really pretty piece of light purple linen. Hopefully the color shows up okay. And got a couple spots on there. There we go. And that looks like a kitty cat right there. So I'm trying to figure out exactly where I was on here. So that looks like the sail here. Yes, there's the sail and the little kitty cat right there and some of the yellow. But it looks like variegated floss was what I was using there, because the yellows have different shades there, the blues. So I'm gonna have to probably, again, try to replace. So it says silken color, but I don't think I was using silken color. I'll have to look around. R&R's 36 count Americana blue using 1 strand thread gather silken color. It may have been, but this definitely is not 36 count. So that's more like 28. So I don't know. That one may or may not continue on. I'm going to put a lot of these aside in a separate spot and kind of decide where to go. So I'm going to take a break for a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, are you ready for the next part of the old counted cross stitch WIPs? I'm going to show my sampler collection. So I was also really into reproduction samplers back in the old days, and I have several of these. I have shown them before earlier in the year, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about them. I haven't done really much progress other than trying to organize them into bags. If you go back and see my early WIP parade where I show a lot of these, they were in a giant Ziploc bag all mixed up. So I now have each one in its own project bag. These are the cheap Amazon ones. I did learn to sew project bags, and you'll see with my more current stuff later on, I will show some of those bags. I just haven't pulled the sewing machine out again. I found that project bags were actually pretty easy to make, and I'd like to continue making them. But for now, these will work. So we'll start with this one. These are in no particular order, but most of my reproduction samplers either come from the Scarlet Letter or the SM Player, and it's good to see they're both still in business. I have placed an order from the Scarlet Letter this past week for a couple new ones because it had been years since I went to their website and made a purchase. So this is the first one we'll look at. This is the Joyce Leeds 1675, and these are true reproduction samplers where they look at the ones that are in the museums and try to reproduce them as close as possible. So that's why you get the muted tones there in the colors of the threads and stuff. Some of them they try to tell by the back where the colors are a little bit brighter and try to go for the original color if they can get close, but a lot of them are so old that the color is faded through the years. So this is a Joyce Leeds, and this is a fun one. Got a random needle over there. I think that's pretty common with WIP parades. huge piece of fabric. A lot of these samplers are really large. 2 needles. I'm going to pull all these needles out while we're at it. They don't need to be in there. And because this is my diamond painting table, I got a safe place to put them all. So this is as far as I got, but this is full of specialty stitches there. Some of those colors are hard to see against the background, but that's pretty typical for a true reproduction here. You can see lots and lots of different stitches here in the letters, lots of back stitch. I liked this one because of all the little motifs where you could just stitch one in a day and be done with it, or some of them took a couple days here. This couple was really fun because there's a lot of French knots in there and satin stitch. And the pattern is fun because it'll tell you each one of these is like numbered on the pattern, and you go to the notes section and figure out what stitches you need to do for each one. So I love, love, love this one. And that's why this was purposely held onto, as all my reproduction samplers were. So someday I hope to get back to that one. So that's from the Scarlet Letter, and it is probably still available. Okay, next one. I'm just grabbing into the sampler bag here. Okay, this one is from the SM Player, and they are still around, but boy, the prices have gone way up, especially for the silk kits. And so you can get some of them just as a pattern, but this one has had a bad day because you see that liquid there, dried stain of some kind on there. Not sure what happened to this one, but this is the Angel Sampler, 1625 to 1650, and this is another long band sampler, but this one was one of my later purchases because I wasn't sure I really liked how it indented, and all these were different sizes. It kind of messed with the OCD side a little bit, and it is a really nice pattern. Here, some of it is in color, so it is worth the price. But here's the problem with this one. The fabric is indeed stained from whatever the spill was. I haven't tried to clean it because, well, I'm not sure what I want to do with this, but because it's a reproduction of an antique, it may be okay, because maybe it'll add to the charm. But this is huge. This is folded in half here, so if you can get a feel for how big that really is there. But I did a lot of work on it. I got the alphabet at the top done here. I used a variegated silk for that. I like to switch out the DMC with silks. And then I got some of that second section done. That's right here. But there's still that much to go, and I'm a little disappointed with what happened to the fabric here. So I may try to wash it out one of these days and see how it goes. So I'm not real sure about that one. Okay, what's next here? We'll grab this one. This poor thing. It's a more recent one as well. This, again, comes from Scarlet Letter. I love it, though. It looks like a little bit more traditional band sampler there from the 1600s. Well, it is. It's Joanna Warren, 1655, from the Fitzwilliam Museum, Cambridge, England. Really neat motifs and florals in that one, and a lot of bright colors. And I believe, yes, lots of specialty stitches, of course. Love, love, love that. Because there's usually very good guides in these for doing the specialty stitches. And I did switch everything out to Splendor silks. So I have all the original DMCs from the kit, as well as the collection of Splendor silks that were close match. But here's the problem with this one. I didn't get anywhere with it for whatever reason. I just didn't get anywhere. This is black work for the stitches, so the back's supposed to look like the front, and I think I didn't. Okay, on some of them I tried really hard to do that, but this came with the kit, so there's not a lot of a border on this one either. And there are 2 needles. I'm gonna steal those put them off to the side. So I really didn't get anywhere, and I need to even double check, is this indeed that one? Because it doesn't, yes it is. It just didn't look like it there at the top. But yeah, that is the pattern there. So I need to make sure, because it looks like maybe I'm missing a piece of the pattern. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's on the back. I have it. So, yep, that's a keeper. I just don't know when it'll happen. Okay, what's next? What is this one? Okay, this is a different, okay. I really, really love this one. And I have the floss here, DMC and baggies. I did not switch this one over to anything silk. This is the 17th century bell pull for wisdom and innocence. Love, love, love these kind of designs. Very simple to do, but just classic. But I lost the pattern at one point, and I wrote to Scarlet Letter and let them know what happened, and they sent me a copy. But then later on I did find the original, but it's much smaller. They sent me a photocopy that's more zoomed in, so I will still use that. But this, you could get the silk option, but I did the DMC option there. But I love the bright colors on this one, and it's just very, very basic stitching. So this is another giant one. Here's how long the fabric is, folded in half. But I have worked on this one somewhat recently because it is an easy stitch there. So I also bought the companion piece, but I haven't started it. But since it's in here, I'll show it as part of the WIP parade, and that's the unicorn bell pull. Kind of same idea here. But I didn't start it till I get this one done. And it looks like we have 3 more in here. 3 or 4 more. Not too bad. So here is another one. This is the acorn and flower sampler. Hide the pattern there. So this is circa 1635 from Samplers and Such. Rebecca Dory. This is another long band sampler. This one is mostly black work, back stitch, double running stitch, same kind of thing there. And I did replace this one with silks, and I had some fun with the silks. So really nice thick piece of linen, maybe cashel linen. Cashel used to be my favorite linen because it's so nice and thick. But here you can see that variegated silk floss. I think that's water lilies. I used to, yes, love, love, love water lilies. So whenever I could, I would use those in my samplers. So that one even has a hanging thread there. Didn't get very far on that one for whatever reason. Someday. I don't think there's any cross stitch on that one. I think it's all back stitch. Okay, second to the last sampler here, but it's actually the first Scarlet Letter reproduction that I ever did. So it's a little bit further along than the others. And I remember again waiting for this one to come because I was so excited. This is called the Boscobel Oak, and this is 1660s. Again, it's a reproduction. You got the English garden here, the castle scene at the bottom, as well as all the floral bands, and not too many specialty stitches in here, just the double running stitch mostly. But here's the problem with this one. So I was going along and I figured out that something was happening with the measurements on this one. So it was telling me to stitch over 3 in some places, which I thought was kind of weird, but the measurements were done for over 2, so it's not going to fit. And that's why I stopped. But I had a lot of fun doing that intricate black work, the beautiful flowers. I did convert this one to silk, of course. But when I got to this point and figured out I was almost halfway through the fabric here, and that should only be about 1/3 of the way down. And it's about here. Yeah. So maybe it's close. I don't know, but I started counting and I think I figured out I wasn't going to quite make it. So I need to probably pull out. Maybe this is like a repeat top and bottom of that same flower motif. So that would be a good one to pull. Maybe pull one of those or something. I really need to go back and count and see how we're going to end up, because I do really love this one. And because it was my first, it has kind of that special place in memories for me. But I have so many new ones. You'll see why some of these have taken a backseat for quite a while, and why they may end up in the end finding another home. Okay, last one. This is a Threads of Gold pattern. Same idea here. Old English band sampler. So this is DHS 1800. Giant piece of fabric here. Huge, huge piece of fabric. But I did at least get some stitching on this one. And let me see if I can find a better picture. I do have some of the silks in here, but no, that's as good as we can get there for the picture. Hopefully you can see enough there, but some of these photos, that's a photo, some of them fade over time, and I can't really show you the pattern, but it has kind of that Tree of Life Adam and Eve thing there, castles, flowers, a lot of the double running or back stitch. So one last look there. Not too many special stitches on this one, mostly cross stitch and back stitch. Pretty simple, actually. So that's where we got with that one. And just not very far. So that is my collection of reproduction samplers. I am going to reset and go to my more recent counted cross stitch, which is all the stuff I've probably started in the last 6 months. So stay tuned, I'll be back. Okay, so we're gonna keep going here with our counted cross stitch, and you're gonna see a major change. Okay, so we are continuing on with the full coverage, but these are all starts that have been done in the last 6 to 8 months or so. So everything you saw before was like 10, 20 years ago or more. Now we're jumping ahead to the last few months. Although there is one transition piece here. I actually just started this one 2 days ago, so it got lost from the rest of the reproduction samplers. So we'll do this one first. And then I will do my non-full coverage recent starts, and then move into my full coverage recent starts. And you'll definitely see a change in style and a change in the types of kits I bought and the whole bit based on that transition from the old school high count linen silk reproductions to the more modern full coverage and cooler designs out there. I even have a Sal in the mix. But this one got lost along the way because I just started it. So this is another reproduction sampler, but I had the kit for a while and just had never started it. This is another one that has the bands on the side here, as well as all these spot motifs. This is the Angie Johns sampler, 1732 to 1733 there. It is a Dutch sampler. So they typically have those ships on them and all the different little spot motifs here, but this is a new start and not very far along. So hopefully I can cover that. And I'm just using the DMC. This was a kit, but I wasn't happy right away there that this DMC color, there are two different DMC colors here, and they blend a bit too much into that fabric. So I know it's a reproduction and that's pretty common with them, but that's just a little bit too close to the color of the fabric, so I'm not real happy with those two. I will probably take them out and replace the color with something else that's got a little more contrast to it. But we do have the start of the W here. So what I've worked on is just this top corner here, trying to get to that first motif so that I can do lots of little motifs along the way. So that is that one. And now it'll go live with my other samplers. Okay, so now we're gonna switch gears here, and you'll see a definite change. And that's because designers have changed and there's just more options out there. So we will start here, and I have had some finishes too, of several small ones. I did not include any of the finishes in this. They have been in other videos, but I got some of the Year in the Woods. I'd like the whole set, but I didn't want to spend the money and get them all at once. So I started with a few, and this is the first one I started working on. So this is a Year in the Woods number 8 from Cottage Garden Samplings. This is a barn owl, and there is a whole new set of these coming out, so I really need to get stitching. But I do like these because they do have a couple of the Weeks die works in them here. This one has 2 colors, the carrot and the grits there, so I still like that variegated look on things. But I bought a giant piece of fabric here, thinking that I might do all of them on this one or use it for other things. I'm trying to see, I thought I kept the tag on it, but I don't see the tag anywhere. Huge piece of even weave here, and that's what I got. So not too bad of a start there. This was my eyes readjusting to working with even weave, and I love how soft this hand-dyed fabric is. It's a really new experience for me, so I've really been enjoying it. So that's what I got so far. We have a few dogs, so I've got a nice little dog hair on there, which will be a common sight in these, but fun little pattern. Of course, with these, they look like they would not take very long to do, but of course they take forever, and I will fold this up again later. But I have maybe about 4 or 5 of these, but I thought I'd start with that one. So that is my barn owl. I do like animals. I do like nature themes, as you'll find out. Boom. What's next? Okay, here's another very recent start. And I downloaded this pattern from 123 Stitch. So this is Fairy of the Wind. As I said in the intro, I am a meteorologist, so anything weather related catches my attention, and I really didn't have any fancy ladies in the mix, and I like doing beadwork, so that's why I thought I'd pick one here. So this is Fairy of the Wind. This is a Joan Elliott Designs, and it is a PDF pattern. So here is my piece of fabric, and the reason this one is interesting, this is hand-dyed Ida cloth, and it's really soft. It looks like about 16 count, but this was a free sample from Painting Fairy Cross Stitch shop over in China, and I was really impressed with this fabric. I went back to their website to see if I could get some more. It is 99 cents for a piece, and it's about a fat quarter size there, but 99 cents. The trick is you don't get to pick the color. So I did place an order that hasn't arrived back here yet of 5 more pieces of this fabric. I'm curious to see what I get, but check it out. Again, I'm going to have my link below for Painting Fairy, because they're not just about stamped cross stitch. They also have tons and tons of even weave fabric. They have linen, they have Ida, they have the every 10 squares marked, the easy grid stuff. They just have their own version, but I can't tell the difference, honestly. So here's a small start. I started in the middle because I wasn't sure about the fabric size or the count size. So we have the circle here of the belt right there and down that way. So there we go. Really neat fabric there if you're into Ida cloth, but they have others as well. It's just the prices are amazing. And I did use a hoop on this one. You'll find for my stamped cross stitch, I stitch in hand because the fabric is so stiff. But for this, because it is soft and counted in hand dyed, I'm stitching in hand, and I'm using called for DMC in this one. So I did go ahead and I did buy the Mill Hill beads for this one off a 1, 2, 3 stitch. So that's what's in there. I keep a master set of DMC floss. So for a lot of these, you won't see the floss in there because I have all the containers sitting next to the couch, and I just pull from my master set when I need to work on something. What's next? Okay, here's something different because this is I bought this one on AliExpress, I believe, but this is a counted, and it is a Russian pattern of pretend postage stamps, but they're Japanese, if that makes sense. How many different nationalities can you have in one deal? So it came as a full kit with the floss, with the fabric. I need to put this in a project bag, but I did get a really small start on it because I wanted to kind of check it out, and I do reviews on my channel, so it's not the biggest piece of fabric here, and I can't even tell which way. There it goes. Now it's looking like a kitty there. So that's what we got on there. A few different colors, few small threads in that one. But I do collect postage stamps from around the world, so that's why that one appealed to me. And just testing out, because I do talk about budget-friendly options. Cross-stitch can be really expensive, and I don't think that arts and crafts like this should only be available to those that have a ton of money. So I do not have a problem sharing some budget-friendly options for people that don't really have another choice. So that's why you will find some of these Chinese kits in my collection, because I review them and I show people what options are out there and available. Here is another recent purchase. This is Bathi threads. This is the 12 Days of Christmas. Technically it's a full coverage. I don't have a whole lot of seasonal projects in the counted world, so that's why it's not in its own category, but really this is full coverage, but I don't really look at it that way. To me it looks like 12 different projects. But love, love, love this kit, but it also needs a project bag, but I have a bunch. So this did come with all the floss, everything, and this is what I did. So I decided to do these as individual projects. So yeah, I cut that out from the Ida, and I'm looking for it. That's interesting. Where did it go? It must be in with my pattern. Yeah, there it is. So I can stitch it in hand. I don't need a big border on it. I'm going to turn these into ornaments, so I just cut it out, and I'll use my own Ida when I run out of this one, because really it's made to be all next to each other. So this piece of fabric won't fit all of them cut out like this. But there we go. We got the metallic threads there, but I thought if I turned it into 12 smaller projects, it would actually feel doable to me instead of one giant one. So that is the 12 Days of Christmas. A lot of metallic thread in there. You can see all of that there. And I'm going to put this one off to the side before I lose anything, because it does indeed need its own project bag. So you won't find a whole lot of seasonal here, although this is seasonal. So I discovered more of these European patterns. This is a Letty Stitch kit. Can't talk. I love Letty Stitch kits. You'll see a few of them in my WIP parade. I have several others in my collection waiting to get started, but these are interesting floss cards. Not a big fan of these. I have a 3D printer, and I'm currently printing a bunch of floss drops and converting some of these things over to floss drops. But I do indeed love Letty Stitch patterns. You can even get the digital copies if you want to put them in Pattern Keeper. I love the fact that the backstitch patterns are separate from the regular cross stitch, so they have two different patterns for you, one with just the cross stitch so that the back stitch isn't covering it, and then a second one showing you where to put the back stitch. I love, love, love that option. And this is on plastic canvas, and I picked tigers because my hubby really loves tigers. So we have the hat of the first tiger there. So I need to pull this out and work on it. We need to for all of them, but for Christmas in July, it would be cool to finish one of the tigers there. That doesn't seem like it would be too difficult to do. So that is my tiger ornaments. And that one also needs a project bag, so I'll put it over there. And 1, 2, 3 stitch is the way to go. So how about a long dog sampler? You knew there had to be one in there. The weird thing about this one, cover up that pattern if I can. I bought the pattern PDF from the long dog sampler site. Here we go. This is Saga. If you didn't recognize it, I had to go big. So I did download this, and I looked through my stash of fabric that I already had, and I had like a piece of 18 count that was big enough. So I started it, and this was kind of early on in getting back into counter cross stitch, but I didn't work on it since then. So I got almost one section done, and my plan, I've got a big cone of 310 black for the background, but for all the animals I want to do them in a blue. It's one of the 300 colors, kind of a slightly dark royal blue to separate out the animals from the rest. So that's why the bat or whatever bird or whatever isn't stitched. The animals aren't stitched yet because they are supposed to be another color. So that's as far as I got, but now that I've found 1, 2, 3 stitch, I've seen the silks people are using for these, I haven't been able to go back, and I'm gonna pull that needle out. I'm starting to really get a collection of needles as I go through this. So I don't know if this will continue in this form or if this pattern will be turned into a variegated silk on something other than 18 count really stiff Ida. It's not very fun to stitch on, and it's been kind of fun doing just simple single color stitching there, but don't know, kind of torn on that one, especially since I haven't pulled it out again since like the few days right after I got that pattern. Okay, so what's next? We have another Russian style one. You can actually download this pattern from the designer. Now that I found her, I have gone ahead and done that. But these are a whole series of flags, but this was the Chinese version. And I think I got this one from the company Dreamstitch.top, which is another really good company for stamped cross stitch. They have the really premium kits, but the brand is called KK Stitch. But you can download this pattern from the designer. They are not on Etsy anymore, but they are out there on a couple download sites. But there are seasonal ones and a Harry Potter one. I'm not really into Harry Potter that much, so I just got the 4 seasons, and I got this close to winter, so I thought I'd start with the winter one. But as you can see, I didn't get very far, but I did discover the friction pens, which disappear with heat, and I'm just going to pull this needle off of that and put it there. But I did start one of them there, and I did mark off some of the others. I have seen these turned into like a little banner thing where each one is cut apart and stitched and hung on a string like a banner. I think that's really cool. So that's as far as I got on that one. Nice little kit, but I did go ahead and throw money to the artist once I found them. So I consider this more of a supplies kit, and the designer did get my money for the real original pattern. So we're actually only down to 2 more in this category before we move to my full coverage, and that's where most of them actually are. And then my 2 Shadowlings. So I'm trying to move these because I just realized I was going to get them mixed up. So this is my only Sal that I have, and it is from Climbing Goat Designs. So this is the Tree of Life Animal Sal, and this is another huge piece of fabric that I bought from 1, 2, 3 Stitch. It was not intended for this Sal. Oh, good, that comes off. I actually bought another piece, but it was too small. I did not realize what the full size of this thing was going to be. But we have the words. I still need the black shadows on a couple of these. And we have some of the animals, and I've been trying to do some of the back stitching along the way. Wonderful, wonderful fun stitch along. But my fabric count here, I think this is 25 count Lugana that was blue, that I did the bleaching myself to give it a little bit more of an interesting background, because that was the original piece that I bought, had the blue and white modeling, but then once I found out it was not going to fit, I went ahead and bleached this one myself to give it that same effect. But I think of it more like a poster size, like a poster of, you know, sciencey stuff that you would see in a classroom. And this is going to be huge and full of animals. I need to put a picture up because I don't have it with me. I only have a printout of the first part of the pattern because I'm not trying to keep along with the SAL. I never intended to, but I really like the pattern. So Climbing Goat Designs on Etsy. Lots of wonderful SALs and designs out there. I love all her stuff because it is very sciencey. But we'll get there. Every once in a while, I pull this out and work a little bit more on an animal. I like that each little animal is kind of its own little design there. And I did pick a variegated for the tree that I had in my stash there for the green. So that's why that Tree of Life looks variegated there. But I am using just the called for DMC for the critters. So that'll be huge when it's done. But that way my eyes can do all the stitching easily. So I really need to work on this one. So it is a monthly sale. They come out on the 10th of the month. Okay, one more partial. And this one is a redo of an old lavender and lace fancy lady, except I am trying it on Ida cloth instead of the original linen. So let me pop up a picture because I don't think I have it in here. Nope, I'll have to pop up a picture. But this is full of beads for the dress. So I did start in the middle here. I've got some metallics going here and worked my way up to her head. I did not do the one strand over one type thing for the face because this is Ida cloth. I couldn't do it anyway, but I don't want to stitch that tiny on this one. But that's as far as I got. I did some of the back stitch there. And I've got some of the gold, but since this one is going to be covered in beads here for the dress, I figured I'd do the other stuff and the wings around and then get to the beads near the end. And this one I do need a hoop, so you see those hoop marks in it. But this one, I started the original one many years ago. I think I was in college again. But I had picked a really, it was like a 28 count linen, but it was more holes than fabric. It was really, really thin, and I didn't like how it was coming out. So I have since given that away. I think my sister has it, and I'm trying again on much more dense Ida cloth. So we'll see how this works. And I did get a fair amount done though on this one. I do enjoy beadwork, so that is my last partial for counter cross stitch. So are you ready to move into the bigger stuff here? Let's see, where should we start? We'll do the Shadowlings. So a chatelaine is kind of a rite of passage for more advanced stitchers who want to learn new stitches and everything. So I did not know about chatelaine. I should have back then, but they're pretty pricey. So I did go ahead and slowly kit up, mostly with my own stash. I did a video on this one already, so I won't go into all the details. But I do have the beads and the silk and flosses as I could find them. I did do some substitutes because the Glorianas are really hard to get. I have a few of them, but let's get to our progress. Well, I should show you the picture first. So I did buy the PDF of this one. And I should have had the picture right up front for you. Hold on just a second while I try to find the PDF. Should be in the back maybe. There it is. Okay, I printed out a bigger design for the time that I did the video before. So this is the medieval, it was one of the old class files, so it's in lots of pieces here because it was intended to be like a 20-part class. This is the medieval cloister herb garden, or herbularius. So here's a very blurry depiction of what it's supposed to look like. So this is one of the large mandalas, but as you can see, yeah, these are pricey just for the pattern. And then to get all the silks and beads and metallics and everything that goes with them. Here's my bag of beads. I did do some substitutes in there. That's what I got there. I got some needlepoint silks and other silks in here, but very, very expensive kit. But I wanted to try just one in my life. And you're already thinking, but didn't you say you had two? Well, I'll show you what I mean there in a minute. But here is what I have so far. Love those peacock blues and greens in the colors. And yes, I am beading as I go. So I do have the center mostly done and beaded. I haven't figured out what to put in the center because I don't have any of the Swarovski crystals. So I'll have to come up with something. There are so many charms and things these days, though it won't be hard to pick something out for it. But I have enjoyed working on this one. It has a lot of quarter stitches. Actually, it goes this way. And the fabric, I did actually save the sticker on this one. So this is Belfast Cream 32 count. Pretty basic linen from 123 Stitch. But I did at least mark off that whole center and did get a fair amount done there on this one. It's been a lot of fun, and it's somewhat simple because you just repeat the same design over on all four sides. So that is my main chatelaine. Shove all that in there. That bag is kind of small actually for that project. So I do want to zip that one because I don't want to lose anything out of there. So my second chatelaine is the attempt at a budget-friendly one because not everybody can afford them. And when the pattern is $40, it makes it much more difficult to get the rest. So this is this one. This is Tuscany Town mandala there. There's a sort of picture. You can see them better on the website, but they are pretty small pictures. But you'll see what I mean. I'm doing this one on Ida cloth with cheap beads and DMC, and I just threw a little pearl bead in the middle. But that's where I got with that one. It almost looks very Christmassy here in the center, much more so than that looks like. But this is just 14 count Ida. But you can still get the feel for that one. I had to pick carefully though and make sure it wasn't one that had a bunch of 1/1 stitches and all that. But I have all the floss here. I did include some golds, and I have some pretty cheap beads here. Nothing fancy. The budget-friendly beads. And of course the pattern here. But I thought I'd see if it was possible to do one of these on Ida. But you have to be sure that you're not picking any that require specialty stitches that need to be done over one on linen, or any of the stitching done over one. So that's where I got with that one. So that's why it's sort of a second chatelaine, because it's not quite the same as the other ones. But if you really want to try one out, it is possible to do them on a budget. Okay, let's move into full coverage pieces. Some of these are counted Heaven and Earth designs. Some are kits that I found. a lot of them Letty Stitch Luca S Reoless. So we'll look at this first one here because this is actually a petty point. It's not really cross stitch, but it's a nice smallish one here. This is the Vase with Hydrangeas. It is a Luca S kit, and it is done on a needlepoint type fabric here. It is a very small count though, and it is easy count. Zweigart, but I believe it's called Jobelin. I found another piece on Etsy, a plain one that I bought that's for another project. But yeah, this is 25 count Jobelin from Zweigart, easy count, and that's what I've gotten done so far. So this is tent stitch or half cross. So a lot of fun. Didn't get too far, but I do enjoy it, and I am trying to do this as a full continental instead of the half cross because that's how I learned to do needlepoint, and this is more like a mesh rather than a regular thick fabric. So that's why the back looks like that, because I am doing the continental stitch for that. And if I run out of floss, I can always replace it with some more. So here is the floss cards with it. It is just regular. I think it's Anchor, but there are DMC to Anchor equivalent charts there that you can do. So that is hydrangeas. And you can see this piece of fabric is pretty small. That is 25 count over 1. So it is pretty tiny, and it does require me to use my magnifying tools. But I'm finding I really can do it. That is that one. Next is a Reoless kit. And I am a fan of Van Gogh, so we have these sunflowers here. And this was my first, trying to cut myself with that zipper. This was my first attempt at using the wool acrylic blends. And this has been really fun to me because it does have several colors, but as you can see, these are all the single strand wool acrylic blends. But what makes this kit fun is the texturing on it. So I won't show the pattern here, but you have to figure out how to read these directions. But some are full cross, some are half cross, some are 2 strands one direction and 1 strand of a different color the other direction. It's just been a lot of fun doing all these different thicknesses and color combinations with those different threads here. So they do explain here in English what all the different symbols mean. So for example, this one is full cross with color 1 plus 2, 1 strand of each. And this one, full cross with just one color, color 3, 2 strands of each. And so you get the idea, you learn how to read the code. But this is a full coverage piece, and I have had a lot of fun with it. It is, however, on Ida cloth, but that's okay. It's been pretty easy for me to do, but I just love the shading and textures that this floss gives. Now, you have to cut the lengths yourself, so I keep them somewhat short so that they don't fray, because I do try to fray a little bit. There's where we got. I was kind of working a little bit of the typewriter method, where I started up here and took that first color and worked it where it was and went on to the next color and kept going that way all the way across. So we do have the full size there across the top. Not a whole lot of border with these kits, but then I started just kind of working down with the different flowers. So working the typewriter method, the next color I will pick will be this one. So the way the typewriter method works, it's not that you do the stitches across before moving to the next row. It's just a way to help you select what color to do next, because sometimes it can be overwhelming when you have a lot of colors to go, well, what do I do next? So just taking the next color from the top, and I'll stitch that, then look for the next one, and keep going like that. Unless I feel like just working on a flower, because my rules, my cross stitch. Crafting should be fun. If you want to switch ways that you do something, go ahead, switch. It's okay. Nobody will tell on you. But I do enjoy that kit. I love the effect of the different shading and colors and number of strands and all that. So a little bit different. Okay, what's next? This one I was working on last night, which is why it's still in the hoop. But this is a Letty stitch kit, but I now have the chart on Pattern Keeper, but I love ocean themes. This is a big full coverage. It is on Ida though. This is everything that came with the kit, so I'm using floss and fabric as it came. But this is kind of a bigger one, but love the ocean scene. And I did start out kind of doing the same typewriter method, working my way across till about halfway point, maybe a little bit less. So it goes this way. It is kind of big. But then I started doing something that sort of resembles a diagonal down this way. So I got some of the little palm trees there and some of the rocks. So this reminds me, I know I mentioned this before when I've shown this one on my channel, reminds me of a cruise that I took with my kids and my hubby through the Caribbean, and we went to Tulum, which was an ancient Mayan city. So that's kind of what these buildings look like. Even though this one is called Pirate Island, it does have a skull and crossbones. I'm going to replace that with just rocks. And I think there's a cannon on there somewhere. But otherwise it reminds me of Tulum, Mexico, and the ancient Mayan village. So that's why I like that one. But that one is DMC, but it comes on these cards. So I will probably convert those to floss drops as well. Next one should be very recognizable to a lot of people. I held off buying this one until someone recently. This is a Dimensions Gold collection. This picture is very popular in the diamond painting world as well as the cross stitch world. It's been reproduced so many times and copycatted so many times, but I did go ahead and get the DMC or Dimensions version here. So this is called Japanese Garden. And they don't, you know, it's kind of different with cross stitch versus diamond painting. Diamond painting companies will put the artist's name. I've looked them up before, but this one did not. But you're going to see something pitiful here because I had to do a restart. So I did start marking it off. I used everything that came with the kit, the Ida, the threads, but I had to do a restart on it because I miscounted. I was actually marking off a full 10 at the top, and this is with the friction pen, so I was able to just stick it in the oven and warm it up just a little because I already had the oven on. I didn't preheat the oven just for this. I already had it on. There was already heat in there. So it removed all my ink, so I got to remark it up, but that's it. Pretty pitiful start. I think I'll keep this one out. Maybe that'll be my tomorrow project because I do love the design, but there's a lot of confetti. I probably should have started somewhere else other than in this tree here because that is going to be a bit of torture. But I do like to practice my parking and all that stuff that comes with full coverage and confetti stitching. So that's a good one to practice on. I think this is only one more of the kit full coverage before I move into my Heaven and Earth designs. So I do love maps, and you'll continue to see other attempts at finding the perfect map cross stitch. I have tried for many years to find the perfect map cross stitch. I have failed many times, and this one I'm not so sure about. So this is the Anki Coleman Designs is the company that did this charting for this one. This is 14 count, so it is 25 by 17. I'm trying to look for the stitch count, 350 by 240. So it's actually not that detailed and not that big. So it's not going to look quite that good. And that's why I'm not real sure about this one. I started in the corner and I didn't like some of the detail. This picture looked a lot better than how it's coming out, and so I'd like to do one much bigger, which you'll see one coming up soon that is much bigger. But this is 14 count. I am parking on this one. I think it goes this way because I would usually start top left. Not a whole lot there, but definitely very confetti heavy, and that's why I was trying to do parking on this one. Got a lot of different colors going here, but I think it's just, even though this is a decent size, I'm not going to see the detail that I really want to see in this one. But we'll keep going with it a little bit more. I've got all the floss that came with the kit. This I got on AliExpress. So it came with all the floss, all the fabric, everything, using it as it came. Okay, now I'm going to step aside for a minute because I need my tablet for the next part. Okay, I'm going to turn my ring light that way. We are on the home stretch now for my counting cross stitch kits, and then I think I'm going to stop for the night because it's almost midnight, and we will go on to the stamped cross stitch tomorrow. So this video will not be going up tonight, but I've known Heaven and Earth Designs for a long time, especially kind of in the early days with some of their full coverage, tiny count Santa designs are the ones that I remember. And then when I got into diamond painting, I was shopping for patterns on Heaven and Earth Designs for diamond painting conversions because they are high confetti, and so it's actually much easier to do them as diamond paintings. So Josephine Wall, I have several of hers for diamond painting, and so I knew they existed. And then I started seeing people that could actually stitch these things, and I thought, wow, you can actually do stitching of them and not just diamond painting. So I thought I'd give it a try. So I do have a few here, not a ton, and they aren't very far because they will take 10 years or more to finish, but we'll start with the first one here. And this one I do have a printout for. So this is the first one I decided to start because it is very sciencey as well as artsy. We've got some Van Gogh in there, we've got dinosaurs, maps, all sorts of things. So this is Museum Shelf. This is the color expansion version, and this is from Amy Stewart here. So this is not the super size. Where is my microphone? Hopefully you could hear that. My microphone wasn't clipped on me. But this is not the super size. This is 750 by 536 stitches, and I am doing this on 25 count 1/1 cross stitch. But this is Museum Shelf Color Expansion artwork by Amy Stewart, and that is what the design looks like. And this is the one that I'm furthest along with, and I did kit up. So I do have all my floss in here. I'm only winding it on bobbins as I go, so that way I could start it sooner. So a lot of these are not wound on bobbins yet, but I'm using 25 count easy grid, and I am parking and doing kind of a diagonal, and I was working on this a little bit today. So there's a needle. I'm gonna go ahead and take the needle off for the moment. But I really wanted to get into all the little designs on this. I thought it would be fun because of the little mini paintings and everything. So when I started, another needle. So when I started, I jumped right away this direction so I could get to this frame and start this one. But then I was having trouble seeing some of the little ninja stitches left in there. So I've kind of gone back to doing some of working on the frame here because the frame is kind of boring. It's a lot of colors. Let me put my light back on that. So it's a lot of colors, but they're all browns, and it's kind of boring. I do have some part thread, so I kind of switch between working on the frame and then working on the first painting here, which I think is the Birth of Venus there. So we're in the dark sky there of that one, but I do like the detail. I love how it's coming out. So we are just right up here in this corner here. So we got a little bit of that dark is that wall back there, and then we have the statue here in the first painting. I'm trying to get over to Van Gogh's Starry Night, but I like the fact that it's just lots of little pieces that I can work over time and feel like I'm accomplishing something. But that was my first attempt at actually stitching a Heaven and Earth design. So I've learned Royal Rose, I've learned typewriter method, parking, all that good stuff, so that I could work on one of these. But it is coming out kind of thick. I did start out with 2 threads over one and immediately switched after like doing only one color. I was like, no, that's too thick. So I'm doing 1 over 1 full cross, but it's going to take a while. But I do pull it out every so often. It stays down here in the living room with me, and I do use Pattern Keeper, but I did print out some of the chart early on when I was doing it. So that is full coverage number 1. Let's see, let's talk about this one, because this is a map and a couple other things in here. So this was my attempt to try again on the perfect map. So this is, well, I should show you the pattern though, but we'll start there. Let me show you the pattern. It is a Heaven and Earth Designs. It is another Amy Stewart. And I have seen somebody else working on it, don't remember who, but this is Birds, Butterflies, and Bloom's World Map, max color. So it is 725 by 518, pretty close to the size of the museum shelf. But I love all the bright colors in there. And doing it 1 over 1 on 25 count easy grid, I think maybe it'll come out a little bit better, especially with the double the stitch count that other map pattern has. So that's why it's hard for me to go back to that other one. But here we go. Here's a start. Lots of different pinks in there, even though it doesn't really look like it. So I've got some parked threads, but not very far along. Need to work on that one. And this one I don't have all the colors kitted up because I just pull from my master set. There are actually a few different projects in this one. So let me find the next one here. I'll show you the picture first. This one is not a Heaven and Earth Designs. It is from Pain Free Crafts. Here we go. I have tried to do this one as a diamond painting a couple times, but they just have been low quality, low detail. And when I found it on Pain Free Crafts as a cross stitch, of course, I had to get it and try. So this is Animal Panorama by Adrian Chesterman. It is 900 by 324. So really big stitch count to try to get those details. Diamond painting comes out to about 10 squares per inch, so it would just be undoable as a diamond painting. You couldn't put it anywhere. So I am doing it on a not easy grid. This was actually a cheap piece of 1 yard of fabric of 25 count even weave. I think it was called Lugana, but this is cheap Amazon version. And there are so many green colors just in that little corner. I'm doing this 2 over 1 on 10th stitch. So a little bit different there, and it's already a mess on the back. But so many different colors just in the top corner here before we even get to the first animal there. So we've got the tree branch and then a bunch of the greenery there. But not the best fabric. They're kind of scratchy, but it is certainly doable. Not a problem with that. But I can stitch this one in hand because it is starched and kind of stiff. But that is our start for that one. And then this one is one I found for my kid. Let me find that one. Oops, we want the PDF. This one I found on Etsy, so I'm looking around. This is from Puck's Closet. So this is Sunken Library. My kiddo loves oceans and jellyfish. And I thought this looked like a really neat design. I kept going back to it. I had it in my cart for a while and then finally pulled the trigger on it. So this is Sunken Library. It is 500 by 500, so it's pretty big. 91 colors, 250,000 stitches. It's doable, but it is kind of big. So I do have 25 count even weave. This is Zweigart Easy Count. And not too exciting in the corner. I am parking, but it's a lot of grays and dark blues on there. Oh wait, actually this isn't 25 count even weave. That is 22 count Ida cloth. Okay, so I saw that I had 2 threads here, so I'm doing this 2 over 1 on 22 count there. A little bit different than what I thought when I first looked at it, but coming out just fine. Having a lot of fun with this one. It's a little bit simpler, not as many confetti stitches in that one. So again, Sunken Library. This is on Etsy from Puck's Closet, copyright 2024. So I keep all of these together in the same package here because none of them have the floss with them. I just work from my master set. And then I have one more. And it is in its own bag for some reason. And I'm trying to... Okay, yes, okay. I'll show you the picture first. This is a petty point. It is done with Zweigart Jobelin that I talked about before that I found on Etsy. And this is not Heaven and Earth Designs. This is Golden Kite. Here is the picture. It is the 1323 Lady and Unicorn Tapestry, but is the small one. I'm trying to be somewhat reasonable and not have too many of these going. So trying to see what the stitch count is on this one. Okay, 450 by 369. So not too bad, but I am doing this on the 25 count Jobelin as tent stitch again, so I can do it a little bit faster. So I believe I'm doing 2 over 1 on there. Yeah, I do have a few parked threads. Didn't get very far on this one yet. I really need to get going on this one because I do like the tent stitch option, kind of working the diagonal there, but it got put away and forgotten, as a lot of these do. And so that's where I got from there. And some days I just don't feel like I can see as well as other days. So some of these tiny count ones may sit for a while, but that's okay. I'm in no hurry. For me, it's about the process. I'm not worried about getting any of these completed or on my walls anytime soon. So the reason I picked this one is my sister did a couple of these tapestries as needlepoint kits back when I was a little kid. My mom had them hanging in her dining room. I think they were like split in half or slightly different versions of this. But it brings back good childhood memories there. So we have Lady and Unicorn Small from Golden Kite. And that pattern was a little bit more expensive. So it's best to wait for sales on Golden Kite because their prices can be a little bit high. So I'll go ahead. I have one more I can show you here in this round just because I have worked a lot on it, but I've also shown it a few times on my channel. So when we were on a trip, I stopped by the Tinsmith's Wife in Comfort, Texas, and did some shopping. We didn't have a whole lot of time, but I did pick out, this is more needlepoint, but it is counted. I picked out this color blocks design with all these different specialty threads and needlepoint stitches. I love the coloring on this one, and it's been a lot of fun. So not quite cross stitch, but cross stitch adjacent, but I thought I'd throw it in there because it has been a pretty big focus project for the last month. So I did outline a little bit here with the friction pen. That'll go away with heat, but this is on 18 count mono canvas. It is hand dyed, But that's what they had. They didn't have the plain white. Because this is full coverage, the canvas isn't going to show in the end anyway, but that's the piece that they had available. It's not too big here, but I did get the first yellow square done. It is a 3x3, so we are 1/9 of the way there. But this one is a lot of fun because of all the specialty threads with it, and I can share this design with my sister once I'm done. So I think that's why I keep working on this one, because of all those fun threads to use. So I'm going to stop here. I'm actually going to stop here for the night because I'm tired and it's midnight. And I will start part 2 of this video tomorrow, and we'll see when we finish. So stay tuned.